Welcome to week 5. I'm going to start off with a great quote by Jay Baer. Prove your point with numbers, but make sure you attempt to do so with numbers that matter. Reminds me of another similar quote from sociologist William Bruce Cannon. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. If you've taken a qualitative research course, you understand why this is true. It's not just about numbers. Stories, anecdotes, feelings, all those things that we can get as a qualitative researcher can help inform us and help us make better decisions. Side note, I'll put in a shameless plug for our qualitative research course. Now, all of you are required to take the statistics course, and in that statistics course, you get a little bit of quantitative and a little bit of qualitative. After that, if you take another statistics course, you generally have the choice. And absolutely nothing wrong with going down the quantitative road. It's very interesting, very insightful. Some great things will be learned there. But I would encourage you to give that qualitative road a look as well. Typically, the course is not very well attended, and I'm not sure why. I think it's probably because it may be a little hard for some people to understand what qualitative research is, and sometimes people just shy away from that. I know as practitioners, it's easy for us to overlook the importance of research, and then maybe not truly to understand qualitative research. But give it a look. I encourage you to at least explore that option. Every time I've taught that course, it's been great. We've had a good time. We learn a lot about the kind of research that I think a lot of public relations, strategic communicators, and those types of folks actually partake in. Think about focus groups and interviews, case studies, things like that are not necessarily free of all numbers, but more focused on that qualitative research that's so critical to what we do. Okay, let's move on to one of the quotes from our author. Academic rigor is beginning to come to social media research through transparency of methods, but cool, new online tools, more than the scientific method, have thus far driven proprietary social media. So what does she mean? Well, you got to be careful not to follow after every shiny new object that comes down the pipe. I shared with you in another video about how I've worked for commanders and admirals and others who, they see something, hear something, and they want to do something, right? That's natural. We, as communication professionals, need to, temper that enthusiasm to make sure that if we try something new, that it's going to, one, not distract us from what our primary goal is, and two, that it's going to actually help us achieve our goal, whatever that is, or at least move us closer to that goal. And that's where we get to this social media return on investment. We've talked about that before. Now, I'm going to kind of repeat something in a little bit different way than what I said in a previous video about the importance of return on investment versus the cost of ignoring social media. Some people refer to that as the ROI versus COI. Now, this could include missed opportunities to engage with key influencers, ignorance of the overall competitive environment, or simply not knowing what your customers are saying about your brand, both positive and negative. Think about it. You send out a news release. You're lucky if it gets picked up somewhere by a media. How often do you actually get feedback from your primary customer? Almost never. Whereas social media, you post something, you tweet something, somehow engage, and you can almost always get immediate feedback. That's highly, highly valuable, and of course we want to make the most of that. Our author talks a little bit about this idea of see, say, feel, do. Now, when I first read this, I thought it might be an oversimplification, so I did a little more research, and then I read it again in context, and I like how the author talks about how we can use those 4 things: see, say, feel, do. Yes, it is simple, but it can also offer us a methodical way to approach social media analytics. Now, our author also offers some good insights, noting that the greatest obstacle to determining ROI, return on investment, doesn't happen on the back end. Once you've collected mounds of user engagement data like retweets, bounce rates, number of likes, all the other tools that we use to measure engagement, that's not the hard part. That's usually pretty easy and it's kind of fun. The main obstacle to determining ROI, or return on investment, comes from a failure to define the R on the front end. What return are we looking for? What is the return we're trying to create? That comes before you ever set up a social media site, or before you ever send out the tweet, or any social media engagement, basically any communication. We need to understand that up front. What is the R that we're comparing against the investment? Okay, there's also some good information about measuring what matters on websites. I want to take just a moment to remind everyone that websites are still important. I've had the question asked in the past, do we really still need a website? We don't. It almost never changes. Sometimes for very simple things, it's very easy to just post it on a Facebook page or send a quick tweet out. And they're right, it is very easy. But you still need that website, right? That website often serves as the foundation upon which you're going to refer those with whom you engage, or it's going to offer more information. And there's still measurements that we have from that website through search engine optimization, the stickiness of the page, time on page, number of visits, number of unique visitors, all those host of things that we've learned over the decades, how to measure the effectiveness of a website. We can't toss those aside, because your website is still very important. All right. Finally, I want to make sure that we have a level playing field in terms of the words that we use in public relations, public affairs, strategic communication. If you don't already know the difference between these terms, or among these terms, make sure you look it up. There's earned media, which is typically how we describe public relations. Paid media, that's connected to advertising. Owned media. That's your websites, your blog, other things like that. And then finally, shared media. That's the social media. That's the focus of this course. I encourage you to review those, because I think it's helpful, even though we're primarily focused on social media, otherwise known as shared media. It's helpful to understand how it plays with those other parts of media that we use in this business. Earned media, paid media, owned media, shared media. Okay, as always, stay ahead with all assignments. Stay engaged in that discussion board, and of course, enjoy this time of learning.